So this is my extended highlights video from my weekend a couple of weeks ago at Oulton Park, and as the date on the screen suggests, that was the 12th of July 2025, and this is the morning qualifying session. And the video is going to contain a bit more footage from qualifying than the races, actually, because the races were fairly non-eventful for me, but the qualifying I think was quite an interesting story, which is helped a lot by these overlays. You can see we've got speed at the bottom and we've got some lap time information and a track map on the left hand side. That's my teammate Clive in the silver car with the orange stripes. I've just let him through and I'll explain why I've done that in a moment. There's the hardware on the dash that's giving us the lap timing and the overlays. Oh, and mustn't forget to say this is the BRSCC, British Racing and Sports Car Club MX5 Supercup event, which is a fantastic race series based on Mark III MX5 with a few spec changes, and ultra competitive. Now, to give you an indication, British touring car multiple race winner and multiple champion Colin Turkington came along last year or the year before, and that's my teammate Clive. He's had a bit of a spin there on the outlap, which is very easy to do. Colin Turkington came along and raced in what was a larger grid. It was probably a 32 car grid. There's about 18 of us today, and Colin Turkington's best result over the weekend was 9th place. So to give you an indication of the level of talent, and that, by the way, coming up behind me now is Jack Harding, who's not doing all the rounds but multiple winner, so I signalled to Jack to let him by. So what am I trying to do this weekend? Well, this is race weekend number 3 for me, and importantly, I'm here to have fun, here to get the car going again. It's had a replacement gearbox after Snetterton, where it lost a couple of gears. So we got a second-hand gearbox, put that in. That seems to be working fine. We've also put new front calipers on, because the old ones were pretty rusted. I didn't test. Now I'm going to start to read from the book of racing driver excuses now as we start to do our first time lap. I am really just right now on screen, I'm just getting a feel for this track, and you'll see the lap times come down dramatically. There was testing available on Friday, but I chose not to test, because if you come testing was £425, the same price as the race weekend. And you're going to also use up a lot of your tyre life. You're going to use fuel, and you're going to pay a team to help you over the day. Now, that can easily amount to almost £1,000 for a day of testing, certainly 800 quid. And I would rather spend that money on racing. The tyre question's a big one, because when I was last racing 2 or 3 seasons ago, we were using a different tyre, an Avon ZZR. Now that tyre is no longer available. Avon are no longer in production with that tyre. So a new tyre had to be selected, and we're running this season on a Cumho tyre, which is fine. It's a very different tyre. It offers a lot more grip, quite a bit less feel though in my view. So it's a bit of an act of faith every time you turn into a corner, trusting that the grip's going to be there. Now, I'm still letting people through. This guy dived in a bit adventurously. This is a timed lap, but for me it's what I might call a fairly casual sighting timed lap, and I'm very keen to just keep letting people through. I don't want to be in people's way, and I'm just getting a feel for the grip, getting a feel for the gear change shift points. That's Clive coming back through again, and wanting to make sure the car feels okay. I put fresh rear pads on last night in the paddock because they were shot, and there's an element of also just bedding them in a little bit rather than just getting out there and destroying them. My expectations now on my second lap for the weekend around Oulton Park, I spoke to my teammate Clive and said, look, where do I need to be in quali? And he managed to get into the 202s yesterday in practice, and several other very experienced drivers were stuck in the 03s or low 04s. So my goal was to try to crack into the 203s if at all possible. That was my target for the session. And you can see from the lap time delta up there that currently I'm a long way off an 03, obviously on a fairly casual lap. But let's build the suspense. Will we get there? I'm going to go back and talk about tyres again for a second. Now with the Avon, the British Racing Sports Car Club very sensibly impose a limit on how many tyres, how many sets of tyres you can buy over a season, and it's just slightly less than one set per round. So in other words, you can buy a set of tyres, let's see, over an 8 weekends of the season, you can buy 6 sets of tyres, I think the number is. So you can, if you want to, most weekends put a new set of tyres on. And if you're going to test on the Friday, you need to use all of that allowance, because the tyres after a full race weekend and a full test session, full test day, which is about the same mileage as a race weekend, they are past their prime. They're pretty much gone. My tyres have not seen really any testing. I did one short 20-minute session at Snetterton. Other than that, just 2 race weekends. So this is the 3rd race weekend for this set of tyres for me. So they are very much well down the degradation curve in terms of performance. They just don't have the same terminal grip as a much fresher set of tyres. And if you want to be competitive, you'll do your practicing on your old set, and then the final practice session you'll bed in your new set of tyres. So essentially you're starting your race on a scrub set of tyres. The one little curveball this particular race weekend is, even though it's 9:20 in the morning, 9:30 in the morning, it's creeping up to the high 20s, and we're going to race in 31, 32 degree temperatures. You can see that I've taken some time off now. We're now on an 07, so we're kind of getting there, getting the feel for things. So the one upside with an older set of tyres is with the lack of tread block depth, there's also a lack of squirm, and there's a bit less heat generation and a bit less heat retention. So a worn set of tyres shouldn't be as radically affected by the high temperatures we're going to experience today. And as we approach Island Bend, which is a real confidence corner, you can hear the tyre squeal now. That's probably the corner requiring the most confidence. 4th gear corner, and either a slight lift or a slight bleed onto the brakes to just get the nose in and get the car coming around. You just need to know what grip you've got underneath you. Now that last lap we took off 4.6 seconds. We're taking off a little bit more time now, so our confidence or track knowledge is coming in a bit, and the tyre grip is coming in. The tyres are now properly warmed up, and I'm going to start seeing what I can do to put together a decent lap time. Now I've been pretty lucky with the traffic here at this moment as well, but if you look top left, we've also now got a speed delta available to us here in the overlay, and this next corner, it's a double apex right-hander called Drew. It's very much a confidence corner. How little can I brake? How soon can I get back on the throttle? And I've managed to go through there a little bit quicker. Next corner here is called Lodge. Very different kind of corner, quite tricky. You've got to get it turned in, aiming for that little bit of pavement on the right hand side there. You want to be turned by then, because if you try to be turning after that, your car's gone very light and effectively you're trying to turn in the air. So I've managed to now go to an 05.3, but this is a front runner now coming up to me, and I really did want to get out of his way. But it didn't matter in the end, because looking to the right-hand side of my rearview mirror there, you can see we've got waved yellows. There's been some kind of incident up ahead, and I think, yeah, that somebody's car has been pushed off to the right side of the track. Now, in terms of how many laps have we, and now we've got green flags again, but it just doesn't matter, because this lap was ruined. That's Aidan Hills, the reigning champion, or I think 2 times reigning champion. Very, very quick driver. When I first got interested in MX5 Supercup, there were 3 guys that were winning all the races: Luke Herbert, Aidan Hills, and Jack Harding. So they sounded like a firm of solicitors, Hills, Herbert, and Harding. But I came out thinking we might get 9 laps, or maybe even 10 laps at a pinch. So I gave myself sort of 3 or 4 laps to kind of get my eye in and then start pushing, which means I've got 3 or 4 laps to do, not 1 but 2 decent lap times, because your quickest lap determines your position on the grid for race 1, and your second quickest lap determines the position on the grid for race 2. Now, because this lap has been well and truly ruined, I'm now just letting some traffic through, trying to find a gap, but also just cooling the tyres a little bit, getting ready for another go. And you can see the difference on the delta there between a go faster lap and a cruising around lap. So it's time for another push lap now. We've just fast forwarded to the end of the lap, but I've got a quick driver just coming up on me now. I'm going to try and go as quick as I can here and not hold him up through Cascades turn 2. Now the rearview mirror is deceptive. He's on my left here, and I think he's going to go for the apex, and so I try to leave him room, but the road is heavily cambered here, and the moment I was out of that groove, this lap was all over. You can see the lap time delta just leaking away. So it didn't really help him, and it didn't really help me. I don't think it's anybody's fault. We just we're at a similar pace on the track, wanting a similar line at a similar time. So I'm now going to cruise around again, save the tyres, let everything cool down a bit, and set myself for another quick lap once we get to the conclusion of this one. That next lap wasn't much different until I got to Druids here and put on my big boy long pants and tried to just be a bit bolder through Druids, but lost the rear end, and that cost me a fair bit of lap time. I lost a bit through the corner. I lost a bit of confidence in the rear grip in the car and was overly cautious through Lodge. 2 years ago I ended up in the Armco here at Lodge making a mistake, and so that lap was no better than any other I'd done. And with about 3 minutes 50 left on the egg timer, it's time now to lay it all down and try to do something and try to get into the O3s if at all possible. So turn 1 looking good. We've carried a bit more speed and we're up 0.35 into Cascades, into the groove there, using the camber on the road and equal to my best speed through there. Now I've just got to be a little bit brave through Island Bend, which is the real confidence corner. It's doing 100 miles an hour on entry, and we're going to be doing much less than 90 through the corner. It's probably 95 miles an hour with a fair bit of consistent squeal coming from the tyres. I think entry speed into the corners was probably the biggest change I've made so far, and just being a little bit smoother, not having to correct as much on the steering wheel, which tends to show that I'm just, with a bit more seat time and a few more laps, I've just got a bit more of a feel for the limit and pushing the car a little bit closer. So we're now halfway through the lap and we're up by 0.85. I can see that on the delta, and I'm feeling pretty good now about the lap. Almost a second now, and just in my head I'm saying, don't mess it up. I've moved brake bias forwards a little to just take a little bit of pressure off the rear tyres, a little bit of heat off the rear tyres, but just being smoother, being on a better line, and getting the power down. Got to be brave enough through Druids here, maintain a high corner speed, not lose the rear end, and that worked out fine. We're still gaining a bit of lap time. And now to Lodge Corner, my old stomping ground, and I've just got to get this right and be confident enough through Lodge, and Lodge works out okay. We exit that with more speed, and we're heading to the line now, about 1.7 seconds up on our best previous lap, and record indeed a 2:03.7. So I'm looking down at that and feeling pretty good, but I'm reminding myself that I need to do a second decent quality lap, because that will set the grid for race 2. That next lap ended up at 2:04.5, which is kind of okay, plus 0.77 of a second, but I've got time for one more try, so I'm going to push it again and see what I can do. Exit the shell oils hairpin. This lap is looking really good. In fact, I'm very slightly up on my previous best, but I discover in a moment that my rear tyres have just gone away. So yeah, entry to Hislops, big oversteer moment, get through Hislops, rears have gone, through Knickerbrook, same again. So I just made the decision that lap time is just eroding rapidly. I'm now just going to short shift, cool the engine, cool these rear pads so that they're in reasonable condition. on the grid about to start race 1. That qualifying put me 16th out of 18th. So sitting here thinking, is there anybody ahead of me that I can catch and beat? We've got a black car, and then dead ahead of me on the grid is my teammate Clive. And I'm going to do my best to try to make a great start. Managed to jump the black car next to me, but off to the left, number 6, the white car, I slightly outqualified him, but he's had an even better start from me on the same row. But turn 1 here at Oulton Park, lap 1, the whole of sector 1 can be very, very hairy. There have been some serious contacts and serious accidents here, and we can see the dust getting kicked up, and I just don't want any of that. I want to be putting back in the trailer at the end of today a car that's in good condition. So I'm going as quick as I can without really endangering myself, without sticking my nose into gaps that are going to disappear. At the same time monitoring the car behind me who out-qualified me, and I just want to try to get a safe lap 1 and then see where we are, see what we can manage to do. Very crowded here into Shell Oil's hairpin. One feature of banked corners like this is there's multiple lines. If that was flat, there's only one line, but being banked, there's multiple lines. You can go high around the outside and carry more corner speed, or you can go close and tight on the inside for a straighter line but less corner speed. Big loss of the rear end there, and immediately I'm going to look behind me to see if that guy's going to catch me. Fortunately for me, he hasn't, and we're off and we're underway, but we're going to get a pretty feisty battle between these 2 cars in front of me. The black car in front of me earlier in the season has been a multiple trophy winning driver and generally very, very good. There's a white car that he's going to have a decent battle with, as well as against my teammate Clive. I want to try to catch up with him now after a couple of mistakes there in myself in sector 2. Start of lap 2 coming up. I'm in touch with the lead guys, not being monstered by the guy behind, and you can see things are getting very, very hectic here into turn 1. People off on the grass, attacking very, very vigorously, and in fact that's cost the white car a position, and now the black car is in front of him. These two will have a ding-dong battle for the rest of the race. So I think we're about 13 to 14 minutes now into a 20-minute race, and I've managed to drop the car behind me, which is always a good feeling, but the car's in front of me. While I'm still nearly in touch with them, they're not driving away from me at an embarrassing pace. I'm certainly not catching up with them. So it's become a bit of a lonely race. I'm now just trying to work on my drive and trying to find if I can do a little bit better around this track. And the pair in front of me have changed places once again. It's now the white car's gotten ahead of the black car. Runoff areas here at Oulton Park are not big enough for them to do what's called a live snatch. So somebody's lost into the city here, and if you look ahead of you now carefully, you'll see a couple of big skid marks heading off onto the grass, and somehow or another the driver has ended there in the barrier. Yellow flags, and that ends up resulting in fact in a safety car, so our race ends early. Race 2, I've got 3 cars behind me on the grid. I get a reasonable but not great start, and the white car, number 6, gets a much better start than me, like he did in race 1. But lap 1, sector 1, turn 1, Oulton Park, again very hot and heavy, and I just don't want to be off into the barrier or suffering damage. We've got cars on the grass, cars making pretty feisty moves, and at this point in time I just want to stay in one piece. Now I just want to draw your attention to a little thing about gear selection. Shell Oil's hairpin, which is the tight right coming up, banked hairpin, I run third gear through there, and it's a bit marginal whether it's a second or third gear corner, but my take on it is I can only use second gear for a nanosecond, and then I've got to make a really nice shift into third gear, which isn't always easy to do. Look at the white car ahead of me and look for the telltale puff of smoke. That's his shift from second to third. Car behind me's done the same thing, and on that shift point he's dropped back. Now look at the exit of the next hairpin. The white car has used second through there. I'm in third, and he's missed the shift into third gear and grabbed fifth. and that loss of momentum has left the black car through. So it's not always a straight ahead case of which gear is faster. If you can avoid the jeopardy of an extra gear shift, particularly one that's not aligned, like third and fourth are easy. Once you start grabbing second, you've got to make a very quick high pressure gear shift from second to third. So I'm in the camp that I will more often leave it in third if possible than grab second. And the last part of the race I'll show you, I start experimenting with using fourth gear in turn one. So it's getting late in the race, so it's pretty lonely, so I'm experimenting a bit. Yeah, I know I probably should have done that on Friday. And here I've moved the brake bias rearwards a bit, and I'm going to leave it in fourth gear and just brake and then get back on the throttle, and I pick up 0.4 of a second in turn one. I keep experimenting with that. Turn one for me was very much in between third and fourth gear. Every time I grabbed third, it just felt like I was slowing down too much. So I started to leave it in fourth, and after a couple of goes, well, straight away it was gaining 0.35, 0.4 of a second in 1 kilometre, which is massive. But about 5 kilometres per hour, and that gave me my fastest lap. So yeah, just interesting to experiment sometimes with what is the received wisdom on gear selection. So anyway, Oulton Park was fantastic fun. I had a good time. I learnt some stuff. Pace-wise, I really could have done with another second a lap, which would have made me very competitive with the small group of 3 cars ahead. The next car up the track from me actually got a podium in class. My class is Masters Clubman. So the Clubman group, which are kind of B-League, and the Masters are those gentle souls over 45 years of age, which I just scrape into. So I had good fun. Thanks for enjoying the highlights. I hope some of it was interesting. I leave with 6 current signatures on the back of my license, so I'm now eligible to a fresh upgrade for International C, which is going to be used for a project next summer. Thanks for coming along for the ride. See you at the next time.